Hey everybody, it's Overdrive, and today we have a Hot Wheels Velocity X car tier list. This is something that has been requested probably for a long time from various people, and Rev It Up 7 did one of these himself a couple months ago, and so now I'm getting in on it. Just like with the gadget tier list, I made one of those as well, and it's been a long time coming, so we're finally going to do a car tier list. And this is a tier list in terms of battling as well as racing, as well as just ability to perform well in missions and just, the ability to evade, attack, just anything you can imagine, just all in one. That's what this tier list is. We're considering everything for every single car. I have a list of all of the cars alphabetized, just like what Rev It Up 7 did, because it's more interesting to go in alphabetical order, because if we just go in order of how you unlock them, they're just generally going to get better. So it's more interesting to do it this way. So with that said, we're just going to go ahead and start. And also I'm going to have some gameplay footage for all the cars. So the first car alphabetically is Arachnarod. And this is a very complicated car to start off with. I personally despise using this car. I just absolutely despise it. It's not so bad that it's heavily flawed. It is one of the fastest cars in the game, objectively. And I think that's worth something, but it's super long, so you're a very big target, and it has this weird problem that a few cars in this game have. Only a few cars have it, and it's that problem where you are so slippery. If you handbrake, you lose so much control and you swing back left, and then you turn right to swing back right, and you can never correct yourself. Especially with jet boosters, then it gets even worse. So it's just extremely difficult to control this car, and that is a huge problem for just really anything in this game if you can't even have confident, good control over your car. So overall, that puts it into mid. Even though it is incredibly fast, I think its speed is 92 off the top of my head, which might be the second best speed in the game, but just the control being so bad, that automatically puts it in mid, essentially. Now, I think we are going on to Attitude. Attitude is, nothing special, but nothing bad. I would probably put Attitude in mid. This is a starter car, but it controls pretty well. Like this thing, it doesn't spin out, but it is kind of long. It's one of the longer cars, just by a little bit. So I would probably just keep that in mid. So yeah, no major flaws or anything, but nothing really too good about it either. Next up on the list is Deora 2. This is an absolutely incredible car. S tier car. Amazing. What is the armor on this? I think it's 90 armor, and the speed is kind of average. The grip is fine. Like, it just controls actually pretty well. It really does. And it's kind of average length to smaller, so overall it just works out really well. It has a gadget mounted at the very front, which is interesting. You don't really see a front mounted gadget very often. Actually, is there any other car that has a front mounted? I guess Lakester kinda has a front mount. But yeah, just looking at all these cars, Hypermite technically, because the whole thing is the front. But yeah, so it works out pretty well. It's just a very strong car. If you're gonna use this in a battle, then you're a genius, because you're probably gonna win. It's just an absolutely incredible car. Just for any situation, it works. And it's not like it's super slow either. You can still make this thing work, and it controls well. So, after DR2, we have Evil Twin. Evil Twin, one of the boss cars. It has a little bit of extra armor, like 40 or 50 armor, nothing too crazy. So, you'll take it. It's nice to have that extra armor. But, so it definitely puts it above Attitude, but it's pretty slow, and it has a terrible problem that a few cars in this game have. It's not the slipperiness. It's not slippery. But it has the problem of, it feels like you're driving on rails. The turning is super bad. Like the second you boost and you're holding boost and you're driving along, the turning is just so bad. You can barely turn, and so you're just hitting walls like what is even the point? It's so you just don't have really much grip, and I think it might have a little bit of grip, but apparently that doesn't matter because it feels like it has absolutely none. It's so bad. It's yeah, you just cannot do turns well with this thing. It's so bad. Like literally, if you try it out, it's oh my gosh. But so I guess that puts it in mid. You get that little extra armor, sure, whatever. So the next car is gonna be Flash Fire. And also, just by the way, while I'm looking at all these cars, it's nice to have them all laid out like this. Flashfire, I think, is one of the only cars with these types of wheels. I don't know what you call it, but I don't think any other. I think Evil Twin has that, and then Flashfire has it. No other car has these wheels, so that's kind of unique. But anyways, Flashfire is gonna be. I mean, would that be above Attitude? Probably above Attitude. Nothing crazy. Super average stats. I don't think there's anything notable about Flashfire's stats. There's not much to say about this. I mean, it actually controls pretty well. It's a little bit heavy. Average size. So, yeah, not too much to say. Cool design. So there you go. It's pretty mid. The next car is Greased Lightning. Greased Lightning. This is just... I hate driving this. This is so bad. I hate driving this. This is so bad. This is one of those cars that has that problem, that slippery problem. Actually, it has two problems. Number one, when you're driving with boost, just like with Evil Twin, it's like you're driving on rails. The turning is so bad. And it has the second problem, which is the turning. The turning is just so bad, but also it has the slipperiness. So it's just a completely bad package. But it is, by stats, one of the fastest cars in the game. Or one of the faster cars in the game. But not to mention, you're so long. You're such a big target. It's just a complete disaster from every angle, which is sad because, there's no way to really make Grease Lightning work. In Hot Wheels World Race, it's also super long and heavy, and I hate driving it. So it's just one of those cars, no matter what game you put it in, it's going to be kind of annoying to drive, in my opinion. And that's very much the case here. It's nice that the AI used this car because they have a tough time maneuvering with it, so you can kind of take advantage of that. Good thing they didn't give the AI actually good cars. Instead, they have to use Greased Lightning in the Crankshaft Bay missions and Burnout Glacier. So, yeah, pretty bad, pretty bad. The next one on the list is Hammered Coupe, or Coupe, however you want to say it. This is pretty average. I would actually put this below Attitude. It has a little bit of armor. I think it has 40. It has like 10 more than the average. So you would think I would put it above Attitude and Flashfire, but actually the turning is so bad. It's just atrocious, the turning on this. That's really just the main problem. It's completely average in every other regard, but it's just the turning is really, really bad. It doesn't want to cooperate. It's that understeer is what you should call it. The next on the list is HW Prototype 12. This is one of my favorite cars in the game. I would probably put it in B tier. And, it's the fact that it has 100 speed. It's the fastest car in the game, generally speaking. It can do the boost exploit really well as with jet boosters. It has super good control. It's pretty wide. It has just a very solid weight, and it's not too big. It is a little big, but not too big. And overall, when you're using this, even at high speeds, you have really good control, and you don't really spin out. I used to use Power Rocket for speedruns in this game a very long time ago, and it works pretty well, but it's much more prone to spinning out. HW Prototype 12 is just a very solid rectangular car that you have good control over, even at high speeds. And maneuverability is pretty good even in a battle situation. So overall, just a very solid car. Next up is Hyperliner. Hyperliner. This is also going to go into B tier. And because of that armor, I mean, if we're going to really think about battling, which is a big part of this game, that would kind of put it above HW Prototype 12, because This has one of the best armor stats in the game, and I guess it does kind of get bumped down. It's not quite A tier because of the fact that it's so tall basically. The gadget, you can get in situations where you can't really hit your enemy if they're too close to you, and that is not a good thing because there are going to be many times where you're face to face with someone and you're going to be in that situation a lot, like close combat, especially in the smaller maps. The next car is Hypermite, and you know what's crazy? I think Rev It Up 7 put Hypermite in mid or good. But it's such a tough one, but I'm probably going to put this in F tier. I think, some of the reasons he cited, I think is just its maneuverability, which so I think is actually just too much of a negative. Hypermite has the most grip in the game of any car. It has 100 grip, and it seems good on paper until you actually start driving it. It's just so bad. The turning when boosting actually isn't even anything to write home about. And it's not fast, and it doesn't have any extra armor. It's pretty tall, so you have problems with that. It spins out so much from getting hit by literally anything, even just a super zapper, it'll like bounce back. It's so bad for battling. I guess you could say it's evasive because it's so unpredictable. You can mash boost and climb walls. You can do some crazy stuff with it, especially with jet boosters. You can literally go flying. I love doing that. It's so fun. But overall, in a general sense, among all these cars, I mean, it's just so bad. Imagine using this in a battle or adventure mode. It's not going to end well. It spins out way too much. So I think that just puts it in F tier for me. And, I guess I can see making arguments for that it's not actually F tier, but I don't know. I think it's F tier. It's Hypermite. The next car is Jaded. Jaded is actually a really nice car to drive. I would put Jaded, honestly, where would I put Jaded? I would probably put Jaded like right here. It's really nice. Um, Average size, it's got good speed, you get it early on in the game, and, a cool color scheme, but, aesthetics aside, it's just generally controls pretty well, and you can do some nice drifting with this, actually. You can take corners pretty well, and the stunt is pretty good, too. You're pretty maneuverable, you're pretty fast, you're pretty evasive, surprisingly, for what the car is. It works out pretty well, so I actually do like driving Jaded. I like Jaded. Next up is Jet Threat 3.0. I would probably put this in B tier, I think. So this has the best stunt in the game. It has 100 stunt. It's incredible for that. In fact, sometimes the stunt is too good where you can't even predict how you're going to land. But, with enough practice you can do anything. But yeah, overall, it's pretty fast too. And in battle, there might be some cars that have trouble against you, like this would almost be sort of a counter pick to Hyperliner because it's so short. It makes you a difficult target for some of the weapons. They might have a little trouble, like the Super Zapper might have trouble homing in on you in time before it hits the ground. The Atom Blaster might not lock on up close. Certain things might go over your head. So yeah, it's actually pretty good. It does have the problem where it can spin out sometimes, like Arachnarod or Grease Lightning, but not as much of a problem. But it is still definitely a concern. But overall, it works pretty well. It can't really do the boost glitch, the boost exploit too well, even with jet boosters. So yeah, it is a little bit prone to spinning out, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I would probably keep it in B tier. So next up we have Crazy Eights. This is an extremely good car. Probably S or A tier, I would have to think about that. But, I mean, probably A tier. The armor is super good, it's like in the 80s, same with the speed is extremely good. Just overall, like every stat is good with this, and it just creates a great package. This is a great car. The design is pretty cool too. You get this car from completing the challenge mode entirely. That's what you get at the very end. So if you were to play Hot Wheels Velocity X for the first time, and you play all of the challenges first before the missions, you are set for the missions. Because if you complete the challenges, just use this for the entire adventure mode, and you're golden. The armor is great. Like, you're having that great armor, not as great as DR2, but still amazing. Yet you also have extreme speed, like rivaling some of the others. So it's just a really good package, and it's a little bit low to the ground. The grip works out pretty well. I don't know exactly what the stat is, but overall it turns pretty well. So yeah, Crazy 8s is going to be a pretty easy A tier, pretty confident A tier right there. Crazy 8's very good car. Next one is going to be Lakester. This is also kind of good all-around pick. Definitely would go in B tier, I think. It's got probably the most middle of the road stats in the entire game. It's got 50, 60, 50, 60 or something like that. So you've got some good armor, you've got some good speed, and in general it controls pretty well. Cool design. It's got those big wheels. I don't know if that's just kind of the camera angle or whatever, but I think it does actually have a bit big of wheels. But yes, overall it's a nice car to drive. I think it actually works out pretty well. And it does kind of have a front mount gadget. Kinda, sorta, you could argue, but yeah, overall works pretty well. Yeah, I like Lakester. I do like Lakester, even though I don't use it very often. The next car is Maelstrom. This is probably mid, probably below Jaded, above Evil Twin. It kind of feels like you're driving on rails when you're boosting. The turning is super bad when you're boosting. But the grip is actually, for when you use the handbrake, is extremely good. It's actually crazy. If you're going at a high speed and you use the handbrake, and you can do like a 360 and then keep going, it's crazy. I don't know why, but when you hit the handbrake with this car, you can do some crazy stuff. But yeah, overall it's just mid. There's not too much to really say about it. The stunt is really good, by the way, actually. I love the stunt on this. You can do some great tricks, get a ton of boost. So maybe that would put it above Jaded because of the stunt, but Jaded just controls a bit better for me personally. Sometimes it's not all about the exact numbers that the stats say, because there's other factors that I'm able to basically explain because of just playing all these cars so much. There's things that you notice about the cars that are not directly tied to the stats. So Mega Duty is next. This would probably be like bottom of mid. You know, nobody ever uses Mega Duty. This might be one of my least used cars in the entire game. It's totally underrated, totally overlooked. But it is kind of mid, so maybe it's not underrated. It's a bit too tall, so it can make battling a bit annoying. The stunt is not very good. The speed is not very good. But you do get a little bit of armor, maybe 40 or 50 or something. You get a little more than the average, which is nice. I appreciate that. And it makes sense because of it being the truck that it is. But yeah, it's just not really a good option. It can kind of roll over sometimes. I think I've had that happen. But pretty mid, pretty mid. Next car is MST Suzuka, the classic, the staple car, the title car. This is probably just going to stay right in mid tier, definitely above Mega Duty, above Hammered Coupe, but I'd probably leave it there. I don't know why the image is different, it has a little bit border on the top and bottom, but anyways. Probably would go right there. It's just a very standard car, and actually with jet boosters, for some reason, it goes insanely fast. It's actually crazy. But it just controls really well, and I've used it a lot, of course. In many of my challenges on this channel, I think I've used it. Just generally speaking, I've used it a lot. And yeah, it's just pretty average car. Next up is Muscle Tone. Muscle Tone. This is probably just going to be mid, above MST Suzuka, probably below Evil Twin, and above Flashfire. It just controls really well. It's a little bit low to the ground, not too low, but it's not too long either. And, you know, the turning is pretty good. It's just a nice, sleek car that you can control really well. I like muscle tone. I actually do like driving muscle tone, even though I don't do it too often. But yeah, probably in mid, but kind of in the upper area of mid, because it's nice to drive. It is. Next up is going to be Overboard 454. This is probably going to go definitely in mid. I would probably put this above Attitude, maybe. Below Flash Fire. Yeah, I mean, it's really similar to its two neighboring cars at the moment. I use this in speedruns, in any percent speedruns for Mission 1. And I actually use Twin Mill 2 for Mission 2, but we'll be getting to that later. And I use this for Mission 3 as well, until I unlock Jaded. Then I just use Jaded. But yeah, you can get up to pretty high speeds with the boost exploit with this. If you do it for a while, you guys have probably seen that in some of my speedruns. But yeah, it's just kind of a nice car, and you don't have this car, or Twin Mill 2 unlocked by default in the GameCube version, which is really annoying. It's so dumb that they did that. You have to have the Game Boy Advance connected, the Game Boy Advance version connected to the GameCube. Yeah, I don't know, it's really dumb, but yeah, pretty average car. Pretty much like the definition of average. The next car is going to be Power Pistons. This car really annoys me, actually. This is definitely... I'm actually putting it in bad cars. It really annoys me driving this. You might be able to see it in some of the footage that I have. Maybe you won't, but I think I demonstrated it. By default, at least in the PC version, I think it might be the case in the other versions too. Maybe it's not. I actually don't remember, but at least in the PC version, I know for a fact this car is off-center. It tilts to the right, or was it the left? I think the right by default. So if you drive completely straight, it veers off to the right. There is no other car in the game that does that. That's insane. So somehow that got by the developers, but it's really bad that it does that. And also, its turning is just kind of weird, not really that good. The shape is annoying. It's just, yeah, it's like off-center, literally. It tilts one way. It's so bad. It's so annoying. I hate that. So that definitely goes into bad cars because of that. Might have to check the other versions. I'm curious, but it's something that, you know, some people might not have noticed it, but I notice it and it annoys me so much. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's so bad. Next car is Power Rocket, the other power car. This is going to be a pretty confident B tier. This would be above Hyperliner, right? Yeah, because of the speed. This might be an A tier car, actually. I don't know. I think it could be A tier. I'm gonna keep it in B tier because it doesn't have that high of armor compared to Crazy 8s, I don't think. But you've got really good speed with this thing. Like I said, I used to use it for speed runs. It works for the boost exploit as well as with jet boosters. Can go super fast. It is pretty long though, and it can spin out. That's kind of the problem with Power Piston, with Power Rocket. Yeah, it's just too long. It's just kind of annoying. I like how this sort of on the back it's animated. I like that. But yeah, it's, you know, a pretty cool car. I like it, but that gives it a pretty easy B tier. Better than Hyperliner, you know, if you're going to go into a battle situation. Because, I mean, probably. Because you kind of want that speed. And you do have some armor, too. So, yeah, this is just an overall really good car. And you get it late in the game for a reason. From the Underworld Joyride. Actually, that's where you get it. So, let's see here. The next is going to be Rigger Motor. I absolutely hate this car. This is garbage. It's so long, which is instantly bad, just like Grease Lightning. That's already a bad quality. And it has the slipperiness. It can spin out like Grease Lightning. It's basically Grease Lightning in 2.0. I mean, what is there to like about Rigger Motor? The stunt is terrible. You're like turning so slowly in the air. You're like, what the heck? It's just... And the speed isn't even anything to write home about. This is just such a bad car, and the shape is weird. Oh my gosh, the turning isn't good either. Like, there's nothing good about this car that I can think of. I can't think of anything. Maybe it has a little bit of speed, but what do you even unlock this from? This is from Turbine Sands. The it's either the gear or the key, I think. Yeah, it's just or what? No, it was a crankshaft bay. I don't even remember now. But it's bad. It's bad. I think it's the I don't know. I forget. That's how unnotable this car is. I don't even like I don't even remember. Uh yeah, just forget this car. Don't drive it. This is one of my least drive cars in the entire game. And that's because I just actively dislike it. So it's for a good reason. It's purposeful that I'm avoiding it. The next car on the list is Shadowjet. I used to play this car a lot. Probably top of mid. It's very small, which is nice. It's pretty evasive, kind of like Vulture, but trust me, we'll be getting to Vulture pretty soon, which is nice. Also, in the PC version, the gadget is off-center. I think I covered that in my version differences video. I don't mean that the car drives tilted like power pistons. I mean the gadget mounted on the car is literally not centered. So, and they fixed that in GameCube and PS2. But that's kind of a weird aesthetic annoyance. But other than that, it works super well with, you know, the jet boosters. It can accelerate unbelievably fast compared to every other car in the game with those. Pretty maneuverable, and the stunt is really good too. So again, it's kind of like a Vulture light, you know? It has some of those really good qualities and good control. You can do a lot with this. So pretty good. Next up is going to be Showstopper. Showstopper is pretty similar aesthetically to MST Suzuka, but it's definitely better than MST Suzuka, so probably under... I would probably put it under Flashfire, maybe. This is, I think, the only car in the game that has a unique braking light, where basically in the back windshield, for whatever reason, it has a red light that appears there in the center. It's so weird. None of the other cars have that. I don't know why it's special. I don't know why it gets that, but it does. It's a really cool detail. I have no idea why they did that. But it's really cool. I like that. But other than that, yeah, average stunt. Everything about it is pretty average. Maybe a little bit good speed. But yeah, and it just controls kind of very similar to MST Suzuka, I would say. Next up is Solar CX-4. This is actually a really good car overall, but not necessarily B tier. Kind of king of mid along with Shadowjet. And, you know, it just has really good speed. And other than that, there's not much to really say about this. It controls pretty well. You're not really going to spin out with Solar CX-4. And you get it really late in the game. You get this for beating Mission 13. So most people will use it for Mission 14. But other than that, people don't really use it too often. But it's definitely a decent car overall, even though you're not going to get really any extra armor using this. Next up on the list is So Fast. This sucks. This definitely sucks. Could be top of D tier maybe. It's weirdly tall. It's taller than you'd expect. So that using that gadget is really annoying. It has an annoying shape. It's pretty slow. It doesn't turn well. The stunt is bad. There's really nothing to like about this car other than the aesthetics. I almost never play this car, which is funny because this is one of the starter cars that you do have unlocked on GameCube, and I think when I was younger I would use this for the adventure mode, at least initially, probably until Jaded. So it's like fine as a starter, but in the grand scheme of things, it's just bad. So maybe that makes it the worst starter car. Actually, no, never mind. We're going to get to Twin Mill 2. I forgot about that. So Split Image 2 is next. I almost never use this car, but it's definitely pretty mid. Probably probably below Showstopper. It's the only car in the game that shares the exact same stats with another car, and that's Jaded. Seriously, Jaded and Split Image 2 have the exact same stats for all four. So you would assume they're kind of exactly the same, but no, not really. If I remember correctly, I'm pretty sure this is one of the only cars in the game that has a back mount for the gadget. It's in the very back, if I'm remembering that correctly, if I'm imagining this right. Which is not really, it's not really a good thing or a bad thing, it's just something to note. And it does kind of spin out. It definitely spins out more than Jaded. It's not as fun to drive or as nice to drive as Jaded, so in comparison to Jaded, you definitely have to put it kind of in the lower area of mid-tier. But it's not necessarily a bad car in any way, shape, or form. Super Tuned is the next car. Super Tuned is kind of bad. I mean, maybe it would go right there. It's really slow. You get like a little bit of armor. Maybe just a little bit more armor. It's a little tall. Yeah, the grip is just pretty bad. Just overall, it's just not a car you really want to use. There's nothing fun about Super Tuned. So, it's just going to go right into D tier with So Fast. Which is pretty fitting. Next up is Surf Crate. And you know, Rev It Up 7 is the one who created this tier list template. And he has F, Surf Crate, and Friends. But I don't know. I don't really think Surf Crate is F tier. I don't. So I don't know. It's kind of funny. You know, you'd think I'd put Surf Crate and Surf Crate tier, but actually, I don't know. Maybe it's like bottom of mid for me, honestly. I don't even know if it's bad. Because these cars have like major problems. Like every single one of these cars has a major problem or is just generally really bad. And there's no redeeming qualities about it. Surf Crate, at least, I think you get a little bit of speed, but it does control really bad, so maybe it's top of D tier. I don't think it's better than Mega Duty. I would probably rather drive Mega Duty, so maybe it's bottom of mid tier. Maybe I'll just... It's either bottom of mid tier or top of D tier for me. Yeah, the stunt is pretty bad. It has a kind of a weird shape in the front, so when you hit a ramp, it actually makes a noise. I think when you hit a ramp, like the front of the car, like dinging on the ramp, it's just because of like the shape of it in the front. It's kind of weird. It's pretty small though, which is a good thing overall in the battle situation, but probably bottom of C tier, top of D tier, something like that. Yeah, I just don't have as much hatred for Surf Crate as he does. Yeah, I don't know. That's probably a big area where Rev It Up 7 and I differ, is on Surf Crate. And the next car is going to be Surf and School Bus. So you've probably been waiting for this one. This is a really confusing car to rank. And I believe Rev It Up 7 put this in F tier. So that would have been 2 F tier cars in a row. But actually, the fact that it has 100 armor, that's a huge deal. You literally cannot get damaged by Ripper Wheels or Atom Blaster. That's insane. You're invincible to them. That's 2 gadgets completely invalidated. And I think that's a really good thing. And it's obviously really slow. The acceleration is absolutely terrible. The stunt is absolutely terrible. It's just everything is terrible except for the armor, which is outstanding. So does that kind of bump it up? Does that put it in mid? I don't know. Because obviously, you're not going to really choose this car because it just sucks so much to drive. I made an entire challenge on this channel called the Surf and School Bus Challenge. And it was a challenge for a reason. The speed is just terrible. There's a fun thing you can do. You can do an infinite stunt trick. I mean, you can do that with maybe some other cars like Shadow Jet, but yeah, it's kind of a cool, funny thing you can do with Surf and School Bus, but other than that, I mean, gosh, where would you put this? Because if we're talking battles, the thing is, you get flung around so much from the gadgets. Like, if you're getting hit by a few magnet mines, you're just going to have to take all those hits. You're not going to be able to fight back. You won't be able to fight back against an oil drum. It can get pretty crazy with Surf and School Bus getting hit by oil drum. It can kind of lean over on its side. Usually it returns to center though. But gosh, I don't know. Because yeah, if you're getting in a 1v1, I feel like this would be bad, right? But then the other thing to consider is that if you have an armor repair, your opponent can spend 2 minutes taking you down to 1 health. And all it takes is a quarter of your ammunition. You heal all the way back to 100. And now they've used all of their ammunition for 3 of their gadgets just to get you to 1 health, and now you just healed with a quarter of 1 gadget. You know what I mean? So you could basically live forever if you had an armor repair with ammo. Just because ideally you just want to wait until you're at almost 0 health and then use it. That's the best time to use armor repair. And with this car, it's so annoying when it heals. Like when you're fighting an AI and it heals and you're getting it so low as a Surf and School Bus, and it heals, it's so annoying. But also Doom Discs will absolutely annihilate Surf and School Bus. Doom Discs are the ultimate counter pick to Surf and School Bus. It's so bad. So I don't know where on earth to put this. I don't know where to put this. Because like it could easily be here, but could easily be here because of the armor in battles. I don't know. Maybe at the end of the day, it all balances out and it's just like top of mid or something. I don't know. Like honestly, I have no idea. It's a really confusing card to try and rank. And I know that's way higher than what Rev It Up 7 put and what probably most people would put. But I put a lot of a stake in the armor because you can live for so long. It's unbelievable. Next up is going to be Twin Mill 2. Twin Mill 2 is the worst car in Hot Wheels Velocity X. I truly believe that. This thing has no armor. The grip is abysmal. It is the worst ever. It is terrible. The stunt is terrible. The shape of it is terrible. It has a back mount, not necessarily a good or bad thing. The speed, just everything about this is terrible. It's a starter car, so of course, you know, it's going to kind of join its buddies down here. It's just so bad. I hate it. I use it for Mission 2 and that's it. I use it for Mission 2 and any percent because you have it unlocked and you can use it. It's one of the best I've found of the unlocked cars at the beginning to be able to do the Mission 2 skip. Just because of the shape of it in the front. But other than that, I absolutely would not use it if that weren't the case. Because, yeah, so it can do that skip well, I'll give it that. But other than that, in every aspect of this game, it's just so bad. Seriously, try and handbrake and turn around with this. It just barely turns. It's like what are you talking about? I just hit the handbrake and turned all the way for a while, and it does nothing. So bad. Yeah, I think it's the worst car in the game. At least Hypermite, maybe you have more speed and you just have the weird factor. Like, you can just fly around the place. Like, I don't know. I think that's worth something. No other car can do that. But Twin Mill 2 doesn't even have any unique fun aspects to it. It's just Twin Mill 2. So absolutely awful. Oh yeah, the engine sound. People don't like the engine sound on this. Which I can understand. It might be the worst engine sound in the game. I think... What other car has that? I think... It's Mega Duty, right? That has that engine sound too. Let's see. I think that's the only other car with that engine sound. But, yeah, it's not the best sound. But, anyway, it's like... That's the cherry on top of this terrible car. Is like, you know what, let's just make the audio bad too. Like, let's just make everything about this car bad. Other than the design, which is fine. Most people prefer the original Twin Mill over Twin Mill 2. I think it's fine. It has the 5 dots. There's only... What? There's only like 3 cars in the game that have the 5 dots. Jet Set 3.0 has those wheels. What other car has those wheels? There's only 2 cars with those wheels? Really? Oh, I guess Power Rocket kind of has it, but it's the indents. It's not the holes, at least from what I can tell. But anyway, so... And it's kind of got the gold accents. You don't see that in any other car. It really stands out. It looks kind of... Like, not really fitting in with the rest of this cast. But Yeah, it's just so bad. But on the flip side, the next car is Vulture. Vulture is awesome. I love this car. I love this car. This is one of my favorite cars to drive in the entire game. It's so fun. Everyone who plays this game agrees. I haven't ever seen someone who disagreed. Like, you are super small, hard target, you are super fast, and you're super evasive. The grip is amazing. The stunt is amazing. The only thing you don't have is armor, which is, funny putting it here with one of the top armor cars in the game. But all the other aspects that you have to your advantage that you can utilize make you so nimble, and just the ability to pretty much decimate in battles if you're just a really evasive and fast player. You can just totally run circles around people and destroy them with whatever gadget you're using. I mean, just an incredible car. I love it. It's just super fun to drive to. Driving around Sewer Pipe Arena doing stunts, really anywhere doing stunts, but Sewer Pipe Arena especially. Sewer Pipe Arena and this car is a beautiful combination. This is an incredible car. I love it so much. This is Slick's car, one of the enemies in the game. It's just, it's so fun. It's so awesome. Seriously. Um, it's just awesome. I don't know what else to say about it. It's Vulture, and the design is pretty cool too. You just add some bonus points there. But yeah, the stunt. I love the stunt on this. You can do some great tricks. You can ride walls well. You can do everything you need to do. If you can imagine it, you can do it with Vulture. Can't say that for really any other car. And on that high note, we're going to drop to a low note with Way Too Fast. And this is a car that I would put in D tier. I hate it. this what's funny is these three are so similar to each other with their flaws, and it's so fitting that they're all next to each other. It just kind of worked out that way. I love how that worked out. Way Too Fast is a living lie. It is not fast. It is long. It is slow. The grip is terrible. You spin out just like with Rigor Motor and Greased Lightning. It's just tall too. Oh my gosh, you are such a massive target with Way Too Fast. It's actually so annoying. Technically, it's kind of a back-mounted gadget car because the front is just so massive. And it's like, from a design standpoint, yeah, you could say it's kind of cool. It's kind of unique compared to everything else, right? I mean, look at all the cars. You have the closed fronts on like all of these, but the point is, to control this thing is a disaster. To play with this thing is a disaster. I've never liked Way Too Fast. But there is a cool glitch that it works really well for in Turbine Sands. There's a little garage in the Turbine City that you can use to get out of bounds with this. And for some reason, this is like the perfect length for that. So I love doing that. But other than that, you're never going to see me play this car. So I think that's pretty much going to wrap this up. This feels pretty accurate. It's kind of funny having Crazy 8s in its own tier, but it's not quite as unbelievably amazing as DR2 and Vulture, but it's still amazing in its own regard just for its high stats across the board. And just, it makes it a good pick for any situation, which you can't say about most cars. Power Rocket, of course, is very good. Hyperliner, with its notable armor, just gets to be up here no matter what, despite its height. Maybe I would put Lakester and switch that. I think Hyperliner has a bit more armor, right? Yeah. HW Prototype 12, which with its extreme speed and good ability to control, is a very solid pick anytime. Jet Threat 3.0 is a respectable pick. The stunt is really fun to mess around with, and it's a very low profile for battles. And then Surf and School Bus gets to be top of mid tier. I know it's a confusing spot to put it in, but it's just really hard to place it. And it's like, it's so funny how this works out, because Arachnarod, it feels like it should be higher, but it really shouldn't because of just how bad it controls. And it's funny having it one step above Jaded despite being such a late game car. Like, I mean, it's just not the best. But Surfer School Bus just gets to be here because of its armor, I suppose. Other than that, I think, yeah, we've pretty much gone over everything. I think this D tier is pretty solid. It makes sense. You have the other starter cars. They don't really deserve to be here. Whereas So Fast and Super Tuned, I feel they really do deserve Power Pistons just has that annoying flaw and just isn't that good with turning. And then these three cars, I've all talked about them at length. And of course, Hypermite, I guess it gets to be an F tier. You know, it's confusing to talk about. I love the design. I love Hypermite as a Hot Wheel car. But yeah, it's got to be F tier along with its buddy Twin Mill 2. Such a bad car. So I think that's going to do it for this video. These are all of my rankings for the cars of Hot Wheels Velocity X. It's probably been so long since I even first got this suggestion. Probably like literally years since somebody first mentioned this for the first time. It's a great idea, you know? I would love for more people to do Hot Wheels Velocity X tier list, especially car tier lists. And, you know, I think I could do other tier lists too. Maybe we could do a battle map tier list. What's the best battle map? You could do a drag race tier list. You could do a world tier list with just the 5 worlds of the game. You know, what's the best world in the game when thinking of everything? So, just some ideas I'm going to throw out there. I think there's some more tier lists that you could do in this game that would be pretty fun to try out. But at the end of the day, I think this is going to be my list. Maybe there's a few things I would be willing to change if someone had a really good argument. But yeah, this just feels right. This just feels right. So be sure to check out Rev It Up 7's video if you would like to see another Hot Wheels Velocity X car tier list, and he's going to have some differences there too. I'm curious to kind of compare mine and his. I wonder where our biggest differences are. Probably one of the biggest differences I think we have is Surf Crate, as well as Hypermite. Well, maybe not Hypermite, and Surf and School Bus. So yeah, I guess I'll compare that and take a look at that for myself. But yeah, that's going to be the video. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. There's a lot to talk about here, obviously. But yeah, leave a comment, like, subscribe if you're new here. I don't know how many people will be new here, but if you're new here and you watch this entire video, then you should definitely subscribe. But yeah, like, subscribe, leave a comment. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you some other time.